So,
Today, in the media conference with Lal Goel, which is brought to you by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV, News Gaon Se, Samvad Sarokar News, Organ Donation India Foundation, and Gyan. Our endeavor is to enlighten you with the current topic. And today's topic is role of youth in social reform. But before I will go on the main topic, I would like to inform that today the country is celebrating Chhatrapati Shivaji Jayanti. Chhatrapati Shivaji was known to be the bravest heroes of all time. February 19th marks the 391st birth anniversary of Maratha ruler Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. He was born in Shivneri Fort in Junnar Tehsil of Pune, and he belonged to Bhosle Maratha clan. The birth anniversary of Chhatrapati Shivaji is dominantly celebrated in Maharashtra. People celebrate this day with pride and valor. Shivaji fought the Mughal Empire led by Aurangzeb for several years and defeated the Mughal army. He was known for his immense contributions towards the country. Media conference with Lal Goel wishes a very happy Chhatrapati Shivaji Jayanti. Now coming to our main topic, that is the role of youth in social reform. Social reforms are never carried out by the weakness of the strong, but always by the strength of the weak. अब रहा समाज ना कोई सुनिए, होगा कहां सुधार, युवा जनों की सहज भूमिका रचे नया संसार, नया पुराना मिश्रित करके लाएं युग के नए विचार, नव निर्माण करें समाज का, युवा जनों का है अधिकार. This small poem was especially written for today's program by Mr. Paramatmanand Pandey. He is the feature editor of Now Bharat as well as the president of Jago Utho Bharat. A social reform refers to any attempt that seeks to correct any injustice in a society. One moment, please. There is some technical hitch. I'm just. Yes. A social reform refers to any attempt that seeks to correct any injustice in a society. People who are involved in social reforms do so with the aim of improving the quality of life. Social reform is a kind of social movement that aims to make gradual change or change in certain aspects of society rather than rapid or fundamental changes. A reform movement is distinguished from more radical social movements such as revolutionary movements. The urgent need for social and religious reform that began to manifest itself from the early decades of the 19th century arose in response to the contact with Western culture and education. The weakness and decay of Indian society was evident to educate Indians who started to work systematically for their removal. They were no longer willing to accept the traditions, beliefs, and practices of Hindu society simply because they had been observed for centuries. The process of reawakening sometimes, but not always, follow the intended, as the resonance did not always follow the intended line and gave rise to some undesirable byproducts as well, which have become as much a part daily existence in the whole of the Indian subcontinent as have the fruits of these reform movements. Although the majority of reformation associated with religious belief and therefore most of the movement of the 19th century were socio-religious character. The socio-religious reform movements and the reformers that transformed Indian society after reform movements were Raja Ram Mohan Rai, who was the founder of Atmiya Sabha in Calcutta in 1815 to propagate monotheism and reform of the Hindu society. In 1828, Atmiya Sabha was named Brahmo Samaj. It believed in one universal God and prayer. Meditation, reading from Upanishads was used as a medium to worship God. There was no place for temple, rituals, sacrifices, priests, etc. in the Samaj. Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, who introduced the study of Western thought in the Sanskrit college and opened its gate to non-Brahmin students. His greatest contribution lay in the field of female emancipation. Widow remarriage was the specific social issue he devoted his entire life to. Dadoba Pandurang, who founded Paramhans Sabha in 1840, was the first reform organization of the 19th century in Maharashtra. Its main objective was to demolish all caste distinctions. Swami Dayanand Saraswati, who condemns idolatry, polytheism, Brahmin-sponsored religious rites, and superstitious practices. He advocated social equality, improvement in the status of women, and denounced untouchability, caste rigidity, and encouraged rationality. Swami Vivekanand, who was one of the greatest thinkers of India, founded the Ramakrishna Mission in 1896. The headquarters was established at Belur near Calcutta to carry out humanitarian and social work to all without any distinction, especially to help poor and destitute. The basic motto of the mission was to provide social service people, spread the meaning of Vedantic spiritualism, and strive for harmony among various faiths and cults. Mahatma Gandhi was a true social worker fighting against the evils of society. He always said, if you want to do social work, you start it yourself. He was very worried about poverty of India, and his political movements were also a type of social work. His famous social reforms were in the field of untouchability, women empowerment, reviving rural craft, in which he promoted the khadi, rural economics and agriculture, etc. While there is a lot of involvement of people with political and economic issues, issues of social reform are largely neglected. However, the fact remains that social reform holds the key not only for reducing distress, but also for changing personal and community and social life in ways that can provide conducive conditions for a constructive and positive approach to life, unleashing creativity and improving the world. It is strange that while social reforms can contribute so much, it has been increasingly pushed to the margins. Even when social reform is taken up in some ways, often the more basic issues are neglected. Such trends can be seen in most parts of the world. Given this rich tradition of social reform, it is really sad and very harmful that social reform has suffered from increasing neglect in India. It is high time this neglect ends and properly prioritized social reforms again get much needed and much deserved importance in the nation's overall agenda. The present day difficult and sad times may perhaps provide some exceptional opportunities for taking forward social reforms on priority. This assertion is likely to be questioned by many people who will point out that social reform needs social mobilization, holding meetings, contacting as many people as possible, and the prospects for these are now lesser than before due to requirements of distancing, increased problems with commuting and related factors. No one can deny this. But at the same time, it needs to be asserted that the people may be more amenable to accepting messages of social reform in more difficult times. People's need for relief and quest for alternatives is greater in difficult times. Hence, social reforms that we prioritize should also be able to provide immediate relief to people in certain aspects. Also, what we try to take forward should be broad-based and comprehensive, but at the same time, it should not be complicated and complex. It should certainly not be dogmatic. The message of social reform should be simple, something people can identify within real life and can interpret in their own context. These rather simple messages have wide implications on how human beings behave in everyday life. In the longer term, this has wide implications for the shape human societies take and the governance that we get. Both in the short and long term, these values contribute a lot to reducing human distress and suffering. Social change involves alterations of the social order of a society. It may include changes in social institutions, social behaviors, or social relations. These should be accompanied by action-oriented programs. Again, three priorities can be suggested. Firstly, there should be efforts to give up all intoxicants, including alcohol, drugs, tobacco, etc. Secondly, all domestic violence should end, and in particularly, there should be no violence against women and children. Thirdly, hygiene in various aspects of personal and social life should get high priority attention. Role of youth in social reform is very important. Youth can also be defined as one of the greatest assets a nation or country can be proud of, which are constantly regarded as the future leaders, young men and women who use their potential values, talents, vital resources, worth of investment by country to foster the development of a nation and act as a center of reconstruction. Youth has been termed the notable change agent and drivers of societal transformation, especially in diverse developing countries, and must be able to rise and develop their mindset through their various talents of or uniqueness. Now, to discuss today's very important point, a topic that is the role of youth in social reform, we have a very learned, highly talented, experienced chief guest with us. He is Dr. Kurian Adhikarthil. Dr. Kurian, welcome to our show. Dr.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Kurian is MSW, MPhil, PhD. Dr. Kurian is the principal of Alvas College, Moodbidri. Dr. Kurian worked from 1991 to 2000 with Koraga tribe of Dakshin Canada through Samagra Gramin Ashram Khap, which is involved in tribal activities in Karnataka. He was principal of Alvas College of Social Work from 2000 to 2009. He has been the member of BOE and BOS of Mangalore University. He initiated 16 new postgraduate programs and coordinated and implemented the academic, administrative, and infrastructural and research requirements. He coordinated NAC visit for the first time in the institute and completed the NAC accreditation. He initiated more than 30 certificate courses. He initiated various teachers development programs. He initiated research-centered pedagogy for postgraduate departments. He is guiding and monitoring the academic functioning of 174 faculty members and 40 departments. Welcome, Dr. Kurian, on our show. Dr.
Thank you,
Kurian,
sir.
you know, today's program is dedicated for the social reform, the role of youth in social reform. And you being a person who was involved in the social reform from very beginning, and you know ins and outs the problems, difficulties, challenges faced in the social society, and for which so much social reform is required. And you are also dealing with the youth, being the principal of Alvas College, Moodbidri. So now we would like to know the role of youth in social reform. Dr. Kurian, please.
Thank you, sir. Welcome everybody to this show. Basically, GYAN, as a team of experts, have been instrumental in bringing about a lot of discussions regarding very relevant issues in the for last 6 months, especially Goel sir has taken up a great initiative of bringing in a lot of discussions which are of relevance. I believe today he has to come up with a very important topic, social reform. When you look at the term social reform, you tend to identify or tend to trace from where it has begun. So somewhere in 18th and 19th century, all over the globe, there was a kind of an awakening due to rationalism and liberalism. What we mean by rationalism is applying rational intelligence to the aspects of society as well. Till then, what was happening was the society and its values were considered to be given by somebody, either a religion or king or people who rule. Now we have come to a understanding where society also can be addressed, understood in a scientific way, and if at all the people or the members of the society want to direct the society or social group in a particular way, we can do so. It's almost like driving our own behavior and social group to a desired end of our own needs. So this understanding itself is a great change. Now we may not feel it, but if when you look at the whole understanding, you feel that the whole behavior of the society and human beings and all the groups, could be religious, could be tribal, could be various political, this was considered to be automatic. If some change is happening in the society, it is automatic. Nothing, we cannot do anything about it. Somebody else has to do. So you all will see a kind of a feeling waiting for a savior. Even now, when we have a social problem, we have a tendency waiting for a savior. Somebody else should come and save us. We cannot do anything. So as you go down the ladder of the society, I'm saying the ladder in the context of social marginalization and economic marginalization. The people in the top layer of the society usually will show a kind of activism to change their situations instantly. As you come down to the lower ranks of the society, it could be marginalized section, any marginalized section, could be women, could be children, could be aged, could be tribals, could be slum dwellers, could be laborers, could be migrants. So when you come to these groups, marginalized groups, you tend to find an inability to accept the fact that we can do it. And they take a longer time to bring out a small change in the social behavior, probably from the families. Say, for example, I'll give an example. A child from a slum or a child from a tribal family has to go to school. For us, it is very easy. What is it? School is an institution which has to develop us. So a child from a tribal group or a untouchable family gets into the school. It is a big Berlin warrior for him, Berlin wall for him, because he cannot find it his area. Those abilities for a child to do something about changing his behavior according to the need of an new situation cannot be achieved so easily by that child. But all of us, when we get into school, maybe we'll take 1 month, 2 months to get adjusted. But the mental lag and social lag of these children takes a long time. Probably all of you are in the board, youths. Just get into any school. That is from where you can start working. Find out the children who cannot adjust. It is not the teaching learning problem in the school. It is the social conditions of the children which is hindering them from getting mingling with the society or the learning group. Now, what has to happen? The change has to happen in the family and the community, not in the school. So there is an urgent need. If you just look at the statistics, 70% of our children get out of the schooling system by 12th standard. Why is this? This is because we feel that the education has to be there. It is a universal need. But when it comes to the universal enrollment is there. But when it comes to the completion of the course by 12th standard, you find that 60% dropout. This dropout is not that they do not have, maybe not have ability of academics. It is because of social, cultural, and economic disabilities. Now, when I speak this, you may wonder what this man is speaking. The same feeling will be there whenever you address any social issue. For example, I'll give an example. When Sir was rightly saying, Rajaram Mohan Rai, when he put it across, Sati system is wrong. We could not take it. How is it? Sati system is wrong. It has been practiced for a long time and it is a part of the culture and thing. I'm not naming any kind of a religion. Probably among Christians, among Muslims, among tribes, among various groups of societies, these kind of belief systems which have been there for a long time and which has converted into an institution. When a belief system gets converted into institution, what I mean by institution is, say, I believe that the tribal groups are less equal to me. It is not a belief. It gets transformed into a social behavior. Say, I'm a principal of a college. I'm the prime minister of a country. I'm a minister of a country. I'm a DC. So my attitude, my behavior, my consideration towards them will get instigated from the belief systems that I had. And this behavior, all this behavior collectively, all of us behave in a particular way towards a particular person. Say, a widow, can she be remarried? Was a big question once upon a time. Now it is not a question. If at all a widow was remarried maybe around 80 years back or 100 years back in India, that would have been a big social taboo. How is it possible? But today we don't consider it a taboo because our thought process and beliefs have changed with respect to that. Now, again, I'll come back to this institutionalization of beliefs. So As soon as we can change institutionalization of belief, and any belief, if you can make it, you know, dynamic, changeable at the earliest, you can expect a reform. If the belief is left for a long period, it creates its own residues. Residues is, there will be what you say, social lethargy, we call it, inertia, we call it. I'll give an example. I was working with a tribal group, Koraga, as sir was rightly addressed. We wanted to bring about economic change in the group. So we said we will have a lot of self-employment programs for you. You come for trading, and we have been supplying a lot of plants, small horticultural programs for them. All of us would think, yes, that's a great move. The people will respond. But for your astonishment, I'll tell you, the biggest resistance was not from others. The biggest resistance was from the people themselves. They know what they have raised, all kind of nose to it. I don't have water. I cannot nurture the plant. I cannot sell it. I cannot do this. I cannot do this. I cannot do this. If you look intensely at yourself, also, all of you are watching this program, every time when a change is suggested, the first reaction that we bring is what I cannot, and I'm not going to change. As the belief of I cannot change increase, it become inertia. To change it, we require enormous of an energy. I give one more example of the same community. They have a practice called Agile system, where in South Canara and Udupi, one system out of it. There are a lot of things. One system out of it is they have an habit of collecting the waste food thrown out after the programs. They collect it from the leftovers, and they get them home. It is not, of course, reduced now, and then they serve it to the guests also at home. Now, anybody look at it, and their population is decreasing because a lot of TB, tuberculosis among them. Even today, they have been, it is a reducing population. They are a tribe which is a primitive tribe, which is reducing the number. Now, when we saw, or all of us who have been working with them or approaching them, saw that this is the big reason for the reduction in the population, because TB is a big cause for death. TB can be transmitted by eating the leftover food from somebody else. So it has to be stopped. And we launched a movement. We went to colony wise. We had small meetings. We had their own youth organization working for it, and we had a campaign, and we had public hearing. We have write up in the newspaper, and we brought up a with all the pressure, we brought up a legal law against Agile system in Karnataka. Our Siddhalingaya was very instrumental in bringing it in the assembly Karnataka. We have brought a law. After all these things, if you ask who has the most resistance towards a change, it is not the people outside. It's the people who are suffering. Now, why I am referring to this is, once you convert a belief into a institution, and once inertia gets developed, it is very, very difficult to alter that belief system. Say, so many years has happened. Apartheid system, untouchability, we may claim that it is not there, but at the outset, when you get into a public societal group out, you will feel that it is still existing. We say women are considered to be very equal. There are a lot of legal measures, there are social provisions, there are a lot of economic provisions for them. But in general, when you consider them in a societal group, we have a lot of limitations. We tend to think them in a bracket with a lot of limitations. So these are institutions created from beliefs. So if at all somebody has to work on social reform, we have to start from breaking beliefs and institutions. Institution is separate. You don't have to associate a belief with it. You will have to have a ability to change it often. And the second part of my discussion that what I try to tell you is how important is changing, bringing social reform, but how difficult it is. And the second part that I'm going to discuss now is how beautiful it is. That is an important discussion. So it is difficult, it is important, but it is beautiful. Why it is beautiful is, unless all these kind of dynamism is brought in the society does not move I don't know whether you see this. You can see there is a movement in the society. Every society is dynamic. It's living being. Society is not a dead kind of a infrastructure. It is a living entity. So as society has more dynamism and movement, the society grow. When society grow, it will have a ability to question itself. So self-criticism as a group society is very important. When you self-criticism question itself, you will find that lot of things that we have accepted today as okay, normal. Say the example that I gave you earlier, a classroom. A classroom requires, in our Indian situation, classrooms require a lot of social reform. You may wonder what this man is again, what this man is speaking. We are in a situation where we have so much of growth, technology, everything has come, and he is speaking of social reform. Unless a reorientation of behavior of communities and children from especially the marginalized societies of sections of the group, our education system will not improve. The people who come into that education system will be only those who do not have these social disabilities, and they take away the whole fruit of the system. That's the example that I have given. If you look around as young people, if you look around, you will find that there are a lot of systems like this. Say now, there is a kind of a discussion when you discuss social reform. We say social reforms are over. 19th century, 20th century, 21st century is a century of the possibilities and opportunities and growth. There is no need to discuss social reform. It's basically because our eyes are not sharpened enough to understand the needs of changing the current societal systems as well. Social reform is a continuous requirement. It is not a kind of one-time activity. And then, as Lal Goel sir was rightly quoting it about, so there are models like a revolution. There are models like sudden assertion of rights. Now there are models. I'm not going to name any kind of things, but you find examples like it. There are models. There is a big political movement. There are models like a big mass movement makes a big change, brings a big change. These are possible, but sustaining the behavioral change and community change created due to this kind of assertions are very difficult. Basically, when a group of people say, we 20 or 30 of us are arguing against use of the bad use of, as sir was rightly quoting it, drug in our society today. A big reform is required there. The drug and alcoholism and kind of intoxication is almost covering the society. There is a requirement for it, but we don't feel it, we accept it. The mindset is when we feel that there is a required to be having a change and argue for it, you are on the side of reform. You accept it and say this is normal. As I gave you the example of a sati system, everybody was accepting it is normal. So drug is not normal, but we are accepting it as normal. So on the moment that you're saying this is not something normal, this has to be reformed. Else, if you don't act on drugs now, don't act on alcohol now, don't act on social marginalization now, maybe next 50 years we start realizing that our society has not grown because of these things are pulling us back. So it is presence of mind. It's a way you look at the societal institutions. So what I'm trying to say is, it is not only a big movement is required. Of course, a big political movement, a big mass movement is required. This mass movement have to bring two things. One is an urgent need of consciousness or urgency for change. The second thing is required change in the persons who are involved in the process. That is more important. I'm waging a dharna tomorrow to stop illegal drug sale in Karnataka. When I'm waging a dharna, I should be able to, all the people who are going to be with me, I should be able to make them 100% free from drug. If that is not happening, mere staging a dharna will not do anything because the behavior change is required ultimately. So any kind of act. It could be a mass action, it could be a media action, it could be a legal action, it could be a activity in the community, it could be an activity in the school. That should be aimed at two things. One is building a big environment for change. Second is building a good behavioral change and sustenance of that change in the people involved. So these are the two things. So that is why I said the first part which I discuss is requirement of it. Second part I discuss is beauty of it. So beauty is, we have proved throughout two, 3 centuries that human beings can build their own society, a beautiful one. That is a possibility, and it is possible. It is not a belief. So we have come to a condition where, for example, the whole globe today wants to have a societal or political situation. There is no war. Peace is a requirement. We want to have a global situation where there is no sale of weapons. We want to have a global situation where there is no sale of human beings. Human trafficking is the second highest business in the world. Unfortunately, we all say, we are living in a very civilized, very beautiful society. We are not.
I think we lost Dr. Kurian.
This is so.
Dr. Kurian, you have muted yourself. Dr. Kurian, you have muted yourself. Please unmute. Dr. Kurian, you have muted yourself. Please unmute.
Different of change, we will be able to build a beautiful society ahead. I think I'll conclude with this note, and I'm waiting for all young people on the board to respond and react. And ultimately, what I believe is, when you start thinking differently and looking at the things in a different way, reform starts. Thank you, and I am eager to listen to all of you on the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kurian, for giving your very, very inspirational, motivational, as well as educative views, which I'm sure all the youths who are participating and who are viewing our shows will definitely take note of it. And what Dr. Kurian said is only one point which I would like to, because he has made elaborate illustration of everything. But what he says, the social reform is difficult, very important, difficult, but beautiful. So one has to understand that whenever anyone wants to do some changes, it's difficult. And he has also mentioned that its difficulties are not from the society from outside, but the society within which require the changes, as well as important, because if we will not do the social reforms at this stage, then our country cannot develop, our society will not develop, and that day will come that we will be termed as one of the most backward country in the world. And third is beautiful, because once you will do some social change, which will give a benefits in the centuries to come or years to come, the advantage, the beauty is that the pursuit to happiness which you are going to get, those who are involved in that social changes will never be compared to any other happiness. Thank you very much, Dr. Kurian, for giving your such a energetic, informative, motivational thoughts. And I would like to mention here that Dr. Kurian is such a learned and experienced person and busy person. Today, he is on his way to Bengaluru, but he said, yes, when I have said I am joining, he has kept his promise, and he has done it from sitting in his car. He parked a car on the way to Bengaluru, and he was doing it. So this shows the commitment, that if you want to do something, your commitment you have to fulfill. Thank you very much, Dr. Kurian, once again. Now I would like to inform my youth guest, and my first youth guest is Miss Afra M. Ifan. Miss Afra, please unmute yourself. And Miss Afra, introduce yourself. You have already heard what our chief guest, Dr. Kurian, has mentioned. Now, we would like to know from you the role of youth in social reform. Ms. Afra M. Irfan, please first introduce and then speak, please.
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir. Hope you can hear it. Hello.
Yes, please.
So, my name is Afra Muhammad Irfan, and I'm pursuing final year degree in English, Journalism, and Psychology in Alva's Degree College, and I'm from Moodbidri. So, today's topic is basically how role of youth in social reform, and we all know that social reform is very important, and only because of social reform there is development in our country. And this can be done basically with the help of youth of our country, because youth are the one who knows what is happening in the country, like all the problems or issues which people are facing, those are understood by the youth. We are learning those stuff. So with the help of youth of our country, with our help, we can bring out solutions of what we can do and what we cannot do, and we can inform our citizens that what is right and what is wrong. As sir said, long back, Raja Ram Mohan Roy had come first to bring up awareness, to provide campaigns like sati is wrong. But then at that time no one believed him, because that was something which was being followed. And that is what we can do right now, because there are many things which are being followed right now, which is not good for our country, which is actually wrong, which is not support, which should not be supported, which should not be encouraged. So we as youth can come forward and bring up these campaigns, just like how Raja Ram Mohan Roy tried to bring out awareness. Same like that, we can bring out awareness, because we are the one who are getting educated on this basis. So reform can be taken in like many fields, not only social way, but also through economical and political basis, cultural basis, because our country is fully diverse, and we have many ways, many fields which we can create reform in. And social reform is one main topic which we can come about, we can talk about, and even political issues, if we say. Because if youth come forward and become the leaders of our country, then only we can, bring out such reforms. We can bring out some campaigns and all that. Like nowadays we can see that the in like the population the population and youth of politics is very low compared to those who are above the age of 50s and 60s. So we what I'm trying to say here is that youth should come forward to in this field of politics, so that they can bring up reforms and they can put out ideas of how we can bring out these changes in our country on the basis of what is right and what is wrong. And yes, one more thing is that there might be two reasons why youth are not coming forward, or maybe youth are not getting this chance. So first is that they are not totally interested in politics, if we can see, because it is a very wide topic and they don't want to interfere in any of these matters. So for this, I would like to say that youth should come forward for bringing up their ideas. Second point, maybe it's like people don't believe in the youth, because youth are young generation and people don't have total what do we say, they think that we are inexperienced and we are just putting out our views just like that. So we need to build up that connection with our citizens, saying that like we can do something, we can help you in bringing reform in our country. So this is one aspect. Other is social evils, as we all spoke about. There are, even if some social evils, like there are many social evils which are not at all going on in our country, like which is reduced. But some part of our country, we can see the corners of our country, rural areas or something, there these social evils are being practiced, like killing of female child, or gender discrimination and all that. So for this we need to create awareness, like even if we know that it is a small part of country, we should not ignore it. And speaking of other social issues like racism and gender discrimination, and even feminism, which is coming out right now. Long back, there was nothing like girls should have the this thing, power in making this, giving decision making and all that stuff. But nowadays, this title called feminism is starting up, and people are talking about it. People are coming and telling what right should a female candidate get and all that. So we have to bring up this reform. Like we have to educate people. That's it. And it's not only that ladies should get more rights than men, but then it should be equal. Like they have to get both sides should be equal, not like too much of anywhere. So yeah, this is what I'm talking about. And we know that all the societies pay mostly attention on the youth of today. So youth should come out and give out these education to the citizens of our country, and this is how people will get to know about everything. And yes, this is what I am basically talking about, that youth should come forward. They need to bring their own ideas, and they need to create a platform for themselves, not that they should wait for the opportunities. Like now we see that people are not trusting us, or people are not believing in us, but then we should make them believe. It's not like someone will come and tell us to make campaigns and provide information or educate others. We should go and create this education to people. And as our chief guest told, that these social issues are are happening in schools itself. Like people are trying to differentiate between the caste, or differentiate between religion, and all those aspects. So that should be, firstly we should educate the students, because they are the youth of the country. So that's when they get to know, we all will get to know, the whole citizens will get to know what is right and what is wrong. So yeah, this is what basically I'm trying to say. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Ms. Afra, for giving your very viable and very vibrant views. But what Ms. Afra said is rightly said is about the youth in politics. Because if you want to do any social reforms or any changes, you require policies to support. And for that, the policy makers' mindset has to be changed first. And until unless the youth will not participate in the politics actively, to change the mindset is not possible. I always give the figures, the statistics. Today again, I'm giving, as Ms. Afra said about that the youths are not participating. The first Parliament of India, which was constituted in 1952, were having youth parliamentarian of up to 45 years of age, 26%. While in the present Parliament, which was constituted in 2019, only 12% youth parliamentarians up to the age of 45 is there. Now, when their number is decreasing, how the youth and the youth population in India up to 45 years is 65% of the population. So one side you are in majority, the other side your majority is decreasing day by day. So one has to be very, very clear. One has to be very thoughtful for this and start participating in the politics in a positive way, not in a negative way. And once you are participating in a positive way, definitely the change can come, and then you can do social reforms in a better way with the total support from the government. Thank you very much, Ms. Afra, for giving your views. Now I would like to invite my next youth guest, and she is Ms. Malvika Sandeep. Ms. Malvika Sandeep, you have heard our chief guest, Dr. Kurian. You have heard the earlier youth guest. Now we would like to know from you the role of youth in social reform. Ms. Malvika Sandeep, please unmute. Please give your introduction and speak.
Sir, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, please, go ahead.
First of all, I would like to thank everyone for giving me this opportunity. Namaste to all the wonderful personalities here. It's my immense pleasure to share a platform like this with personalities like Lal Goel sir and Ms. Dr. Kurian. My name, myself, Malavika Sandeep, a class 9 student representing my school, Kulabadi Munshi, Bhavans Vidya Mandir, Pottur, Thrissur, Kerala. The role of the youth, they have the ability to learn and adapt to the environment. Our youth can bring social reform and improvement in the society. We cannot make do without the youth of a country. The youth will be the future leaders of our country, and as such, need a good and strong foundation to be good leaders and citizens someday. Drugs and alcohol abuse is a constant threat, and it's not good for the society. They always should have the positive motivation to do something good for the country. They are expected to advance the current technology, education, politics, and also the peace of the country. Education is a very important factor in the economic development of any country. India, since the early days of independence, has always focused on improving the literacy rate in our country. Even today, the government runs many programs to promote primary and higher education in India. Bihar has the most illiterate people by proportion than any other Indian state. And although literacy rose 14.8%, There is still crisis in Bihar's primary education system. Its classrooms are India's most crowded and have the fewest teachers. Yet India's sixth poorest state spends the least money per student. And Bihar has 37.3 percentage fewer teachers than it needs in elementary education. 1 million teaching positions are vacant. As the first part, the literacy rate and the learning outcomes are some of the lowest in Bimaru, that are the states of Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, and Uttar Pradesh. By 2020, India will have the world's largest working population, that is 869 million. But an analysis of these four states with 43.6% of India's school age population between 5 and 14 revealed that India is unprepared to educate and train its young population. The SDGs, or the Sustainable Development Goals, also known as the Global Goals, were adopted by the United Nations member states in 2015. And it's a universal call in action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure all the people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. There are 17 goals. The STD 1 aims to end poverty in all means everywhere. Its objectives include ensuring the entire population, and especially the poorest and most vulnerable ones, have equal right to economical resources, access to basic services, property, and land control. Also, natural resources and new technology. At an average 5 people to a family, the figure shows nearly 70% of India's population is qualified as poor. Nearly 5% of the children in Bihar were never were out of school. Those out of school, 55% were never enrolled. 25 dropped out and simply dropped out. 85% students made it to upper primary school but did not go further. The SDG 5 aims to grant women and girls equal rights, the opportunities to live free without discrimination, including workplace discrimination or any violence. It's to achieve gender equality and empower all the women and girl children. There are still places in India where girl children are not educated. The youth plays an important role in the nation building. They have the power to help a country develop towards progress, and it's responsible for bringing social reforms within the country. The Mahi teacher who shared his prize money with the contestants, Rajat Singh Dissel, a Maharashtra government school teacher, won the Global Prize 2020 and decided to share it. He worked towards eradicating teenage marriage in the village and promoting girl children education. Now the village sees 100% attendance of girl education and no teenage marriage has been reported. His work made him a hero. Dissel is also known for his teaching work, which included adding QR codes to the school books. So children could get links to video poems, audio lectures, assignments, stories. This was also adopted by the NCERT. The USD Global Teacher Prize 2020, which brings incredible honor and glory in itself, was bestowed on it. And he decided to share half of his earning, that is rupees 7.40 crore, with the 9 finalists. For the Global Teacher Prize, 9 finalists of the Global Teacher Prize, to support the incredible work of the change makers. He believed together we can change the world because sharing is growing. Each of the other Global Teacher finalists will get around rupees 40.57 lakh. Dissel turned the whole scene of the school around and translated the textbooks into local language to help the children study in their mother tongue. His work also mentioned in Microsoft CEO Satya Nadell's book, Hit Refresh. The students play an important role in improving and strengthening the society. Society is the manifestation of the united existence, and the students are part of that society. And therefore, men and women of all ages and professions should do their best to serve the society and help in the social reformation. Thank you. Sir, you're unmuted. Sorry, you're muted.
Sir, you're muted. We can't hear you. Sir, you're on mute.
Sir, you're on mute.
Sir, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Sir?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Now
sir,
we
we
can
can
hear
hear
you.
you now.
Okay. So, sorry, that. So what Ms. Malvika has said is rightly said, and about the Bimaru states, yes, now the new government policy of education, new education policy 2020, which has come out, definitely will give a very new dimensions for the education. And as our chief guest has mentioned, Dr. Kurian has mentioned, that if those societies which are reluctant to send, or the children are reluctant to go to schools, if they will be promoted to come to schools without any complexity creating to them, then definitely the education standard can go up. And for that, the role of youth is very, very important. Thank you very much, Ms. Malavika, for giving your views. Now, my next youth guest is Ms. Purvi S. Ms. Purvi, you have heard our chief guest, Dr. Kurian, as well as the earlier youth guest. Now, we would like to know from you the role of youth in social reform. Ms. Purvi S, please.
Yes, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, please.
Yes, so pleasant morning to one and all gathered here. Let me start off by thanking Sir, the chief guest, and all for having me here on this wonderful platform. I'm Purvi S. I'm studying in first PUC, Bangalore, and I've taken up humanities at Jyotinivas. Now, with what we are present here for, youth and their role in social reforms. Mahatma Gandhi once quoted that, "Be the change that you wish to see in the world." This is my third time here on a youth conference, and I always begin by giving my viewpoint on the youth of this country. As I belong to the aforementioned population, I've always believed that within us, not only the youth, but everyone, there's a potential waiting to be brought out. More particularly, the youth will be the ones taking the growth of this country forward. And certainly, we must be responsible to acknowledge the power of our voice gifted to us. Now, talking about social reforms, in a country as broad and as diverse as India, we do need social reforms. And in the remarkable ways of history, we have seen social reformers act on their feet to bring a change in the society. Otherwise, we would have still been shackled by the chains of the sati system, the parda system, child marriage, extreme caste discrimination, and many other things that remind us of a dark past. Swami Vivekananda, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Ambedkar, Jyotiba Phule, Gandhi, all of them were social reformers, to name a few. And they were also youngsters with great ideas to make a difference in this country. Only now it is our turn to act fast, because it is always better late than never. I am a humanities student, and let me tell you, I enjoy every minute learning the subjects in the stream, inside as well as outside the classroom. In most of these subjects, be it sociology, economics, psychology, or history, we have discussions that could move mountains, because here we talk about social problems and human relationships. And over here, human relationships have the spotlight. Through studying the human society, we come to terms and problems that hinder the growth of this country. So we as youngsters must spread this knowledge beyond the classroom to create the awareness, because that should be the objective of education. We shouldn't be afraid to start conversations about sensitive issues, because change begins with simple conversation. It is 2021, but in this pretext of a modern society, there are still many problems that require our immediate attention. The word reform basically means to reshape, and it is not too late to mold our thinking and pave the way for social change. Even though we believe that societal evils from olden India have vanished, there are definitely forms of discrimination, especially caste, race, and gender discrimination that lurk in the society. It is sad to see us moving backwards in time. So the root of all change is thoughts are contagious, hence it is up to us to come up with these thoughts. Social reform is a way of nation building. We could do the simplest acts of participating in social movements or social campaigns, as discussed earlier, to wipe away the evil in the society. It is high time we use our rights as citizens and make the most efficient use of freedom of speech given to us. We must be bold but responsible with this freedom of speech, because we should be able to question policies and acts that go against the well-being of the society, because all of this marks action. What we do with regard to social reforms comes from our mind, thoughts, and speech. It is also very important to note that our role in social reforms means setting an example. We shouldn't only be against wrong, but we should also not be in the wrong. Now, no human is perfect and we all make mistakes, but there is always time to mend these mistakes. It isn't humanly possible to be judgment free, because as humans we all tend to do it, but we can definitely clear prejudices that we know that go against the virtue of humanity. Our relationships must be free of any discrimination, and it is always better to act on a conscience trained by years of education and upbringing. Like I mentioned earlier, our education must be an education that goes beyond the marks card, and we need to make practical use of this education that can apply in the real world. We must not be quiet when we see wrong being done, because that is the greatest wrong that we could do to ourselves and others. Therefore, social reforms depend alone on its social beings as humans. So I thus reach a conclusion here on my words of perspective today. Thinking about social reforms alone has changed a fair few things in my mind. And if these words of mine are able to make even the slightest difference, then I believe that there is hope for progress. I would like to end by quoting one of my favorite authors of all time, Dan Brown, who said that the decisions of our past are the architects of the present. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Purvi, for giving your very thoughtful your thoughts about the role of youth. And you rightly said the freedom of speech. Yes, but the youth role is to see to it that they must use the freedom of speech very judiciously. They should not use which can harm the society, which can harm any other person or even the country. So if you have the freedom of speech, please use it properly. And as you mentioned, yes, if your thoughts, even if you are whatsoever you are speaking and you have already said that you have come, this is your third chance. Yes, why not? If you people will start making this movement, talking and coming up, definitely the social reforms can take place. Thank you very much, Ms. Purvi, for giving your thoughts. Now I would like to move to my next youth guest, and she is Miss Ruth A. Cordas. Miss Ruth, you have heard our chief guest, Dr. Kurian, as well as earlier youth guests. Now we would like to know from you the role of youth in social reform. Miss Ruth A. Cordas, please.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes, please.
Okay. Good morning to one and all. My name is Ruth Andrea Codris, third year BA student. I'm studying criminology, psychology, and literature in the School of Social Work, Roshni Nilaya, Mangalore. I thank you for giving me this opportunity to be speaking here and to be sharing my views on the topic on this platform. To understand the role of youth in a social reform, let me try and define the key terms that are youth and social reform. Youth is best understood as a period of transition from dependence of childhood to the independence of adulthood. The age range in which one is considered to be a youth generally varies on many factors, and different cultural perspectives define the term youth differently. Youth have the role to renew and refresh the current status of our society. That includes leadership, innovation, skills, etc. Youth are expected to advance the current technology, education, politics, and peace of the country. On the other hand, youth also have the role to maintain the culture of our country, all good values in societies and developmental projects and other things as such. Social reform is a general term that is used to describe movements organized by members of a community who aim to change their society. These changes often relate to justice and the ways that the society is currently replying to those injustices. The concept of reform can be distinguished from revolution because reform aims to work within existing structures and solve structural problems, whereas revolution, on the other hand, aims to dismantle and create new structures altogether. It seeks to correct any injustices in the society. People who are involved in social reform do so with the aim to improve the quality of life. Social reform is a kind of social movement that aims to make gradual change or make changes in certain aspects of society rather than rapid fundamental changes. Social reform is not limited to any specific time period or culture. Rather, it describes the organization of people to implement gradual change towards a particular goal. As an example of a social reform movement, I could give the American women's suffrage movement. Women in the United States were unable to vote because they were not legally allowed to do so. So they organized themselves and gathered support from their allies. They did not want to dismantle or abolish the voting system as such, but rather they wanted to make certain that the voting system was inclusive of their voices too. Now that we know exactly what social reform is, I would like to clarify the reasons as to the occurrence of social reform. Broadly, you could classify these reasons into 4 categories: moral system of belief, social innovation, potential values, and social change. Since all these terms are so individualistic and vary in different degrees from one person to another, social reform movements take not only time to form change, but also a lot of energy and patience. Youth is the future of modern society. The young generation needs to renew, refresh, and maintain current status of society. When the youth contribute their ideas and energy towards social reformation, they become capable leaders and can also make a change in their lives and the lives of others. They must not only have the courage to resolve the contradiction that plagues today's society, but also the boldness to take on and find the way to overcome challenges without shunning the problems and difficulties that will inevitably follow. Development of any country requires active participation from the youth. It does not matter which field we want to progress in, whether it is a technical field or a sports field, the youth is required. It is up to us how to help the youth in playing this role properly. We must make all the youth aware of their power and the role that they have to play in nation building. It is true that today's youth are facing many challenges related to unemployment, drug use, human trafficking, piracy, etc. But there also exists a great deal of opportunities to gradually overcome some of these challenges. Having said all that, it is also important that we, the youth, believe in ourselves so that we can be accountable both individually and collectively to nation building. There are ways in which we can help the youth of our country to achieve their potential. For that, the government must introduce programs that will help fight off issues like unemployment, poor education, institutes, nepotism, favoritism, to help them prosper without any hindrance. Equal opportunities must be provided for all, irrespective of caste, creed, gender, race, religion, and more. We must make sure that every youth has the chance to prove themselves worthy and must be offered equal opportunity to do so. And we must make them feel like their voices are heard. Like Sir said in the beginning, and Karl Marx once famously quoted, social reforms are never carried out by the weakness of the strong, but always the strength of the weak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ruth, for giving your views. And you rightly said about the US elections. Yes, at one time, women were not allowed. And today, the vice president of US is Ms. Kamala Harris. This shows that once, and it's a gradual, you rightly said that it's a gradual process for social reform. And in India also, there are lots of scope for social reforms. Yes, it will take time, but it is still beneficial for the generations to come. So the role of youth is not to see for themselves, but for to see the future of the country, see the future of generations which are going to reap the benefit what you are doing today. Thank you very much, Ms. Ruth, for giving your views. Now I would like to invite my next guest, and he's Mr. Tejasvi Kumar M. Bhatt. Mr. Tejasvi Kumar M. Bhatt, please unmute yourself. You have heard our chief guest, Dr. Kurian, as well as earlier youth guests. And now we would like to know from you the role of youth in social reform. Mr. Tejasvi Kumar M. Bhatt, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on this platform. And
can you just bring your mic closer to your, yes.
Sir, am I audible now?
Yeah, bring it closer to your face, please.
So am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for having here on this platform, on this conference. My name is Tejasvi Bhatt, and I'm from NITTE, I'm currently pursuing my Master of Business Administration from Justice K. Sagde Institute of Management. And greetings for everyone present over here in the conference, and a warm welcome to all the audience whoever is witnessing this event live. So, speaking about the today's topic, role of youth in social reforms. Uh, Before getting into the aspect of the topic, social reforms, I would like to throw light on some interesting facts and figures about the Indian youth. So, India is the second largest populated country in the world, next to China, with a headcount of about 138 crores, which is a gross 17.7% of the total world population. And about 65% of the population includes people below the age of 35, which is merely 90 crores of youth. So, what do you think these facts are trying to convey us? Interesting, right? So, India has a strong youth power and it has all the caliber to lead the world. Now, imagine such power contributing towards the welfare of the society and for the well being of the people of India. It's an absolute bliss to see such reforms happening across the nation, where the younger generation is leaving behind a remark of wonderful contribution towards the benefit of the people and the interest of the nation. Over the time, the emphasis on the lives of people had a shift towards social well being from just about their economic welfare. This transformation has been witnessed through various forms of social revolutions that were a part of the society in the past. Visionaries and revolutionists like Swami Vivekananda, can't get a better example than the Swami himself, have contributed a lot towards bringing justice to the people who are deprived of their true positions in the matter of both social and economic interest. Now, speaking about the role of youth in the society, well, youth forms the pillar of any society. Reforms need not be at a higher level from the start. It can even begin from home itself. It can begin with a son helping his mother or a daughter lending a helping hand to her father and carrying it to the next level where one can clean their environment and by planting trees. See, you're not only contributing to the society but also to the benefit of the surroundings which we live in, and it won't take much time. A today filled with good deeds and the hard work will lead to a change in the society and build a better tomorrow for the nation. And gradually, youth has the power to take lead in undertaking reforms like serving the under and unprivileged sections of the society, teaching them and making them realize their basic rights and helping them to lead a reasonable and dignified life. The high school or college students are taking some time out of their leisure and teaching the kids who are poor enough to make it through the schoolings, and will also have a massive impact on the socio-economic life of the nation. Well, this is what the people need. This is what the country needs. This is what the world needs. By this, I would love to put an end to my delivery by restating a famous quote: "Youth can lead." Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tejasvi Kumar, for giving your views. And you rightly said that so much population is there in India of the youth. If youth wants to do something, they can very well do. But they have to start the work, as Mahatma Gandhi always says, whatsoever you preach, you must do the same thing for yourself. So if youth will start the social reform, and that should start from their own place, like charity begins from home. So if youth will decide to do some social reform, within the government rules and regulation, definitely there will be a change, and that change will be a drastic change for the entire country. Thank you very much, Mr. Tejasvi Kumar, for giving your views. Now I would like to go for my last youth panelist, and he is Mr. Thensim C.H. Marak. Mr. Thensim is, please, you have heard our chief guest, Dr. Kurian, as well as you have heard all earlier youth guests. Now, we would like to know from you the role of youth in social reform. Mr. Thensim C.H. Marak, please unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and please speak.
Thank you, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
My warm wishes to our chief guest, Dr. Kurian, chief editor, Mr. Lal Goel, and everyone present here, and a very good morning to you all. I am Tengsim C.H. Marak from East Karo Hills, Williamnagar, Meghalaya, and I'm pursuing my master's degree in economics in Northeastern Hill University, Shillong. me begin my point of view on the role of youth in social reform. When we speak or discuss about the roles of the youth, in many cases, we can come across a vast areas of responsibilities and empowerment. Coming to the point of social reform, or we can say social change, the first thing that should come into our mind is changing ourselves first. In every way possible for the best of our society. Youth are regarded as the future leaders of the society and has the potential to the foster development of a nation and act as a center of reconstruction. Moreover, youth are the chief agents of change and drivers of development in the society. As a youth, one possesses a wide range of skills and knowledge to positively create and counter the problems. Utilizing them can utilizing them can bring prosperity or growth or change in our society or nation as a whole. Today, I would like to emphasize on the role of responsibility on which being a youth can contribute to formal education. We know that the road for a social, economic, and political empowerment and development lies upon education. Youth's participation in education is a major contribution in the preparation of young and energetic people as citizens, and also it introduces to different learning platforms where we can reach full potentials and be a lifelong leaders. We as a youth can bring about enthusiasm and vitality, which can lead to new discoveries and developments that can benefit the society and world at large. As I have mentioned earlier, in bringing changes to ourselves first in order to change the society, we also need to realize that we still adopt the system which our ancestors have followed during their time. Let me take an example. For example, even though dowry system has been illegal in India since 1961, it is still prevalent, or we can see dowry system being practiced in some parts of the country. Other cases like discrimination on the basis of caste, creed, race, or the most important part, religion, still exist in and around us, and will continue to exist if we do not come to the rescue or act upon it. Today, we are living in a modern era where there are new discoveries, information, and new technologies, and we are full of knowledge. Yet, we have the mindsets of diversity, diversion, and division, which is very toxic and endangers our social life in our community. This is where we, the youths, have the power to take up responsibilities, play a key role in reconstructing or recreating the system or the culture to achieve a far more better, secure, and safer community. When we as youths fails to face these challenges or consequences in such kind of situations, we fail to realize that we are at fault and allowing the system to control us and not us controlling the system. Therefore, when we talk or think about social change, one must first take up the challenge in changing oneself and then towards the society and the nation in the next. In considering the role of youth in India, it is important to firstly understand the overall situation in India to the context in which young people are growing up. And to conclude, I would like to say that in order to bring changes in the society, we need to educate the society itself. And to educate the society, the first and foremost role of the youth is to educate ourselves. With this, I would like to conclude. I thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity to speak in this platform. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Sensim. Marak, for giving your views. And you mentioned about dowry. You have heard our chief guest has said, Dr. Kurian has said, that the resistance come from the particular tribal or the society where the changes are required. In the case of dowry, in my opinion, the resistance is from youth, because if youth, after all, there's a marriage between a boy and girl. If boy says, who is a youth of 21 plus as per the legal age, can say, no, I don't want dowry, then there is no question of dowry. So basically, who is going to be changed? The youth. The youth has to change themselves. If they will say no, then no one, there will be no dowry. I'm just giving this example because you have mentioned about dowry. Thank you very much for giving your views. Now I would like to go back to our chief guest, Dr. Kurian. Dr. Kurian, you have heard all our guests who have youth guests who have given their views. Dr. Kurian, are you there? Dr. Kurian is traveling, so that's why. Dr. Kurian, please,
Yes, sir.
switch on
Yes,
your
sir.
video.
Yes, sir. I'm driving.
Can you switch
Yeah,
on
I
your
will not be
video?
able to switch on my video. I'm driving.
Oh,
I will not
Dr.
be able to
Kurian,
switch on
because
my video. I'm
I
driving.
understand.
Sorry
Can
for
you
that.
just stop somewhere, and then, because it's a live telecast, so if you will not, then it will be
Yes.
totally dark on the screens of every live telecast wherever it is going.
Yeah,
So
one
I will
minute,
advise
sir.
you,
Please.
if you can park the car anywhere for 2 minutes, is it possible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Just
So
1
Dr.
minute, sir.
Kurian is parking the car
Just a
and he's
minute.
joining us soon. So what today, what we have seen till the time Dr. Kurian will join, I will just like to inform you that the youth have the potential. Yes, now Dr. Kurian is there. So Dr. Kurian, you have heard the entire media conference and the youth.
Sir, I have
Now we would
heard
like to know from
the
you
whole.
the concluding remarks.
Yes, sir. So I have heard the whole discussion by all my young dear friends, and I'm very astonished to see that the amount of knowledge they have gathered regarding reforms. All of them have given definitions, and they have quoted historical incidences, and they have come up with the examples. And of course, I'm very glad that all of them have stressed a point that it should start from me. That is a great point, because if you look at Gandhian way of reforms, it has been always told that unless you take the change, unless there is convergence of your thought and action, reform will not come through. And probably Gandhi is the best reformer, because his exercises of reform have been reflected in South Africa and many countries of the world. So I believe when it comes to reform, it's Gandhi, it's Ambedkar, it could be Vivekananda, all those exercises, all those great personalities we had in India. But remember, the starting point was me. Whether it is Vivekananda, whether it is Gandhi, whether it is Ambedkar, the starting point was me. So I believe the whole discussion has led to a conclusion saying that start from me and action. It is not the things that we speak, it is the actions that we do matter. And I'm so glad that all my young friends who are in this platform have done a great, wonderful job. And I believe we start it from me. Action. Thank you. It was very wonderful to have you all. And I'm so thankful that you have bared with me even after I'm traveling on the way and all those things. I'm sorry for the small inconvenience caused. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kurian. We must give thanks to you that in spite that you are traveling and you have to go for an important meeting, you have given the time for the benefit of today's media conference to the youths. And the youths have also seen what Dr. Kurian mentioned. And you also mentioned, which Dr. Kurian repeated, is that it should start from me. And that is a very, very important aspect of any social reform. Because if you will think that I want these changes in the society, what you are doing. Are you doing the same thing for you? If, like Dr. Kurian mentioned about the alcoholism, yes, you want that alcohol is no alcohol, no drugs. But what about you? If you are not taking alcohol, if you are not taking drugs, then only you can preach others. Our chief guest has mentioned that if you want to go for a protest, please see that all the protesters who are participating are free from that vice. Then only you can protest against that vice. So the social reforms start from you, like charity begins from home. Similarly, social reforms start from you. Rather, what Dr. Kurian says, our chief guest, is me, not me too, from me. And once you will start from me, definitely the change will come. And it has to be within the legal, permissible parameters of the country. After all, our country is supreme. So all the social reformers who have done the reform, social reforms, they have made a point that they have not done anything against the country, against the nation. And being a gradual practice, gradually it will change, it will take time. I can give my own example, being the chairman of Organ Donation India Foundation. I know it's a long task, although more than 5 lakh people are losing their life every year for want of organs. But still, we are trying. We are trying to create the awareness. It will take time. It cannot be overnight. But we cannot say, no, we should change it drastically. After all, we know that India is a full of diversified country. We have lots of caste, creed, religion, language. So we have to think all those things, and then only we can make a change. So similarly, for others, wherever you want to do any social reforms, you have to be very patient, but be firm. And that is the role of youth. Thank you very much. Thank you all, and special thanks to Dr. Kurian. And today's program, which has been live telecasted by B4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV, News Gaon se Samvad Sarokar News, as well as it was shown live on Facebook and YouTube. And our endeavor is to bring to you every day a new topic. And tomorrow, our media conference with Lal Goel at 10:30 a.m. The topic is greed versus family values. Yes, greed versus family values. The participants are Advocate Ramesh Kumar Sharma, Chairman Gyandeep Institutions, Educational Institutions, Mathura, as well as Professor Dr. Vinita Rai, Registrar Evaluation, School of Social Work, Roshni Nyale, Mangalore, plus 1 or 2 more panelists will be joining. So please tune in tomorrow for media conference with Lal Goel at 10:30 a.m. Thank you very much, our chief guest, Dr. Kurian, for joining and giving your valuable time. Thank you all my guests, youth guests, who have given very, very thought-provoking views. And I'm sure that today's media conference will at least put some dent in the thinking process. And once you will start think about the social reform, it will start, because it has to be started from me. Thank you very much. Thank you all the viewers for watching our shows. Thank you.